unheard of. But when we started, we realized that one of the biggest challenges is finding hospitals and institutions that were willing to take on charity cases. And I think here in California, we contacted a whole bunch of different facilities in Northern California, and we had also regional directors in Texas and Kentucky also reaching out to different facilities, and it wasn't very successful initially. And then I remember I had actually visited Tunisia summer 2011, right before I started pharmacy school and moved to LA. And I met like these kids face to face, and when you meet them, there's just kind of like a source of motivation that you can't really get like just from listening or hearing about them. And so when I came back to LA, I heard about Shriners Hospitals for Children in LA, and I made an appointment with the applications coordinator. And I made a presentation, and I prepared like all these videos and pictures. And I really wanted to kind of motivate her and inspire her to like help these kids in the same way that they inspired and motivated me. And it was really successful. Right after my appointment with her, she gave me like this huge packet of applications, and she's like, submit as many as you need. We're going to take as many cases as you bring to us. And so that was really, really, that was just really amazing. And I'm not saying like, it was all of this happened because of me, but it was definitely a community effort. We had people, contacting facilities all over the U.S., and it's really a group effort, because if you contact like, I don't know how many, maybe like 200 places, like one is going to say yes, but you just really need that community effort to reach out. And you also have to believe in yourself and hope that somebody is going to say yes. And so we're really lucky that we are coordinating with Shriners in LA and helping these kids to get the treatment they need. And right now, one of the second challenges we're facing is the whole issue with visa and how they have to go to Morocco, and now you need a visa for Morocco. But these are things that we as long as you're persistent and you believe that you can make a difference, I think it's going to be just fine. You just have to be really optimistic regardless of how many obstacles you face. But yeah, that's pretty much it, and thank you for your time.
I want to thank all our panelists for giving their time and sharing their stories. Just one more round of applause. And I want to go ahead and review some of the topics. We discussed a lot of topics in just 3 short little speeches. We talked about higher education, we talked about women in work, we talked about art, sports, and culture, we talked about the medical field, fashion, leadership, entrepreneurship, mentorship, networking, and the importance of unity and community. Some of the values I hope that you take away from today are courage, dedication, persistence, and of course faith. Faith in yourselves, faith in the community, and faith in the future that we all can be a part of, inshallah. Now what I want to do just for the last 15 minutes is open it up for questions and answers. I expect everybody in the first few rows to ask a question. And I want to open it up to, Mohamed has a little bit of a concept. We want to start with a safe space concept. It's kind of like a no judgment zone, which is wonderful. So Mohamed, do you want to say a few words about that?
Yeah.
And then we'll start. No judgment zone.
Cool.
That's what I call it.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. All right. So, what the safe space concept is, it's actually something that I actually do with a lot of youth. Specifically, when we talk about different, I guess you could say, struggles or different things that youth go through. A lot of times, whenever we talk about these particular things, we have a tendency to judge, or we have a tendency to lose respect, or we have a tendency to do whatever it is that we feel that we do, or we naturally do, to become defensive. So there's a concept that actually started during when actually women were fighting for their rights in America. And this concept came, it was called a safe space agreement, which was whenever they would meet, they would create a safe space agreement. And what it is that they would actually agree with everyone that is here that they would not judge, they would not disrespect, they would not do anything that would actually harm the person that is here that wants to open up. Now, it's an agreement not only in this space, but it also stays in this space. Okay?
So there are no stupid questions, okay? And it's really, really special when each of you share kind of your story or some certain challenges that you have, because that's what these mentorship, thank you. with these mentors and these different experiences. They're here to learn and to grow. Okay, so if you have any questions for our panelists today, don't be shy. I'll literally start pointing at people. Questions? Is my stare intimidating? You, sir. Just kidding. Questions? Even in the back, it's fine. Yes. Oh.
I'm just like, I project. Okay. Use your diaphragm. So, thank you guys so much for sharing your stories. It's really great. But I have a question for you guys as far as engaging with others, because that's such a huge part of anything that anybody's ever going to do. You're always going to interact with other human beings and other people. So, what do you guys, as far as experience, have like either hardships or struggles or something, specifically maybe even in a group setting, like a struggle that you faced, and how do you engage with others with everything that you guys bring to the table in your conversations that you've had with them?
Who wants to take it first? So challenge or struggle.
I was one of the people who, I won the World Peace Award. It was fun. I won a diversity award. It was fun, but I never really thought it was anything that was really a big deal. It wasn't until really I read a book by Edward Said, and it was a concept that he discussed called Orientalism. And this concept really was the basis of how Western culture, and whether it be in Europe or even in America, viewed the Middle Eastern culture. And not even only the Middle Eastern culture, but also Asian culture and certain things like this. And the concept was totally skewed based on media. We, on the other hand, I believe, and this is just my opinion, have the same concept. And maybe I'm answering your question, maybe I'm not. But when I say the same concept, I mean there's a generation gap between us as youth and, let's say, our parents. Now, this same concept that I'm discussing it's really a basis of ignorance, stereotypes. We have this idea that we have an idea of what everything means, or we think that we know what everything means, but we really don't. So when it comes down to facing people of different ages, because I believe that really when it comes down to differences, we're not only talking about different cultures, we're talking about different ages, different sexes, different, anything really. We have this particular stereotype or this thing in our mind that we believe that this person is this way because they're this. So for example, I'm a Libyan American. Most people would believe that I know everything about Libyan culture, or I know everything about American culture. When in reality, me growing up, I felt like an alien in general because I wasn't really Libyan when I went to Libya, but I'm not American when I'm in America. So what exactly am I? In limbo. So I didn't really understand it. So in the concept of, I think maybe this is what you're asking, maybe it's the concept of diversity. Is it? No? What was your question?
It's about struggles.
It is.
Yeah. So it is. That is one of the questions that we have for them. We posed, what is your personal struggle, and also as a Libyan American, if there's been any cultural specific struggles that you've had. So, and I just to piggyback what you said, I encourage everyone to read Class of Civilizations and all these different. I took a whole class on that. It's an amazing concept. So it's also an idea of the victim, right? So, oh, I'm Libyan, so I can't do this, or I'm American, so I can't do this. You need to go back to the ideas of human and Muslim, etc. So what else? Another question? We also have some papers going around. If you are too shy to talk out, Wafia has them. If you want to write your question down and pass it over. Okay. We have another one over here.
You can anonymously drop it over there anonymously.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for speaking to us. I find that a lot of the time the struggle doesn't actually lie in forming ideas, but it's in the execution of them and in building that bridge between A and B. That's what I find really difficult. So the question is, how did you materialize your vision? What motivates you? What drives you as young, working, idealistic individuals? Thank you.
Okay, I'll answer it. For me, at least, I think you need to find a role model or somebody that you look up to. And for me, like I mentioned earlier, it's my grandfather. The fact that he was able to leave Libya at a young age and kind of just pack up and leave, encourage his sons to pursue higher education and everything. And then, that for me was my motivation, and that was that's somebody that I wanted to be in the future. And I think what it is like I said, finding a role model, and then also just getting out of your comfort zone. You have to just just take a risk, And the avenues do exist. If you network with the right people, there are people that can help you achieve your goals. You have to believe in yourself, and then tell others. Therefore, they believe in you as well. And if you network with the right people, you can really achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve, I think.
Great, I think it's what Samah said. You definitely want to recognize a role model. With children of Libya Foundation, my role model were the children, and seeing how persistent they were in making sure that they a lot of the kids we have were MPs.
Can you put it closer to your mouth?
Sorry, is this okay?
A little bit louder.
Okay.
Perfect. Maybe we'll switch.
So I think when I was interacting with a lot of these children, and I could see just how, even though they had all these different medical problems, they were still trying to lead as normal lives as possible. And I said, I saw what their kind of struggles were, and I told myself, is it really that big of a struggle for me to go out of my way and just call a hospital and see if they'd be willing to take these cases? And so I think it's like Samah said, that's one thing you have to have. You have to recognize a role model or somebody who inspires you. And then in terms of education, I think for me, you have to believe in yourself. And so when I was applying, I think with USC, they had a less than 10% admission rate. So they had around 2,000 applicants. They interviewed 400 people. And then our class is around 160 students. And so you just really have to believe in yourself. And you also have to be persistent. There are a lot of people in my program who I think they applied 3 or 4 times. They didn't get accepted, but that 5th interview, there was something super special about them, and the school was able to recognize, okay, we need to accept them. So just don't be afraid of failure. That's the other thing. Just if you get a no once, it's not a no forever. Just be very persistent. So yeah, thank you.
I forgot to say, the whole repetition and persistence, that's another thing as well. For example, Edison, he had to invent 10,000 light bulbs until he got the right one. And also the inventor of the Harry Potter book, the publisher, I think her name was J.K. Rowling, she had to go to 12 different publishers before, and every single time she was rejected. So imagine being rejected not twice or 3 times, but not even 7 times, but 12 times to be rejected, and then she had to persist in order for her book to be as big as it is now.
Assalamu alaikum. I don't know if this is exactly a question or a challenge. I want to see your response. Everyone always says follow your dreams, do what you love, but that's not always necessarily practical. I feel like you need to do something not something you hate, hopefully, but that will actually, that you can be successful at and make a life at it. And for myself, I went into pure science, but it's not like I loved it. If I wanted to, my dream to be a professional athlete, but that's not going to happen. And my example is, I have a friend, he got a master's in photography, and unfortunately, he got a lot of debt and stuff. Unfortunately, he's working in a quarter store selling cigarettes. So, I would say, did photography, do this stuff, but maybe get something a little more practical.
So something about
So what's your,
dreams versus practicality. Maybe Samantha, you were talking a little bit about whatever you love will be something, maybe, or have you ever?
I think you definitely have to do something that obviously has, like, there's a market for, and that's why I think Libya is like the perfect place, because, you know, there's so much demand, and there's so many opportunities in Libya, but you have to obviously do something that is going to be successful, something that, you know, a lot of people do demand first of all, I think.
Yeah, I think so. So I guess when you say like do something that you love, but you also definitely need to be practical. So I agree with what you said. I actually worked as a tutor when I was at UC Davis, and I tutored math. And there were a lot of people who would come to me. I think it would be like they kept failing, and this is like basic math, like basic calculus, and they wanted to go into med school. And I'm like, you know, you have to be
calculus.
Yeah. I mean, well, sorry, okay. But there are just some things, like for certain fields, you need to have the basics of. And I hated to be the one to tell them, but like, you know, sometimes if there's nobody else to tell them, I'll say like, have you thought about other things? And I'll notice different things that they do that they're really good at, their strengths. And so I think sometimes it'll help to, maybe you yourself don't recognize your strengths, but talk to people and they'll help you to recognize different things that you're good at that maybe you weren't aware, and you'll actually end up loving that something that you didn't really realize you could do. So yeah, I agree with you. Lots of things that are dreams are not really practical. So hopefully you'll have somebody who can give you the outside perspective and be really objective with you, and help you find something that's practical and that you will love doing.
I think the first thing that you kind of have to do is really be honest with yourself. I'm a sole believer of do whatever you feel like you really want to do and follow your dreams, period. Because at the end of the day, if you're really honest with yourself, if you're truly honest with yourself, you will have no limits. The difference between those who succeed and those who fail, in my belief at least, is their perspective on how they actually deal with the barriers that they encounter along the way. And that's how I feel, at least. Who was the guy? What was the name of the guy who was climbing Mount Everest? I think his last name was something Hillary. Either way, he was unsuccessful 3 times. And the 4th time that he actually came back, he actually was successful. And when he was successful, his assistant came to him and he told him, "You conquered that mountain." And then he answered back, "No, I conquered myself." And that's what it's really about. Me, myself, I had the dream to become an artist, to make millions. I'm not going to make millions out of art, first of all. But I also wanted to be an NBA player. And I practiced day in and day out, 4 hours a day. I went to JV practice and varsity practice. I never even picked up a ball my 10th grade year, until my 10th grade year. And then afterwards, me practicing day in and day out, I had to practice twice as much as kids who were playing AAU, way before me in like their 7th and 8th grade years. But I realized that I had to have a point of reference. Ray Allen was cut his sophomore year of college. He didn't have a good enough shot, but look at where he's at right now. Michael Jordan was cut when he was a sophomore in high school. But look at where he ended up being now. But then, of course, you also have different, there are certain prototypes that you gotta be, blah, 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 you gotta be 6'10" to actually be looked at and all of that. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to your perspective on how and what you feel success is. Because we all have an idea of what success is. What success is to you may not be what success is to me. Period. That's kind of how I see it. I know. I can talk about that all day.
We're taking a question back here.
Oh, it's good, yes.
Okay, we probably can take 2 more questions, and then we have to go ahead and wrap it up, so this is a chance.
Hello. I know in the educational field, you've all had to go through some hard choices of where you want to go, what you want to do, and I was wondering if you could offer any advice on who to go to ask for advice, how to make these decisions and make sure you end up with the right one or the best choice for you.
So maybe especially in the Libyan American Libyan American community, it can be difficult to find who to turn to, right? Sometimes it's like you were talking about the gap. Maybe your parents don't get it. Maybe your peers don't get it. Maybe there's a difference between your grandpa and your, even though he's your role model, maybe you won't get the struggles of the time, right? So in your personal experience, who culturally, if that's your question, culturally or religiously or personally, who have you gone to get you on that level?
Hard question.
Perfect. Was your question like in terms of who do you go to in terms of like places in school or like in the community more?
In general, if you're faced with a tough decision, is there any advice on how you should choose your path and if there is someone to go to in particular or how to get over that decision?
Okay, well, I talked a little bit about me, how there was my role model for a little bit of time. But in addition to her, I definitely took advantage of a lot of like counseling opportunities at my school. So from high school, I was being logical about what they were trying to say, and I was trying to say, okay, so maybe that's what they meant by it. Just because somebody said something negative, it didn't mean, okay, I couldn't do it anymore. But it was a different perspective. And then in college, we also had, you'll always find like career centers and like counseling places. And also, hopefully, they're like, I don't know about your school, but they let you do a lot of like volunteer programs with different types of things. So for me, I had the chance to do like an internship at a hospital and do an internship at a pharmacy because I wasn't really sure, okay, do I want to go more towards the medical field or the pharmacy field? And so just exposing yourself to those kind of different settings also will help you. But it really depends on kind of, are you at the college level or the high school level? And what are the different opportunities your school kind of provides you with. But definitely start with your school, I would say, if it's more of like a professional kind of a decision.
Okay, and that being said, we did run out of time, but if you have any questions for our panelists individually, they'll be here for a few minutes afterwards. Also, I wanted to make a statement I forgot to say in the beginning. All our panelists are 25 or younger, so that makes their accomplishments even more exciting. So we're so proud of them. Reminder, the dinner program starts promptly, ladies and gentlemen, promptly, at 7:30.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm very, very inspired by the youth that we have here today and by the youth that are sitting in the audience. Because this is the focus of the Libyan American organization, and I'm very happy to see the reception that we're getting from our youth and the participation. The other thing I want to say, I want to thank Mohamed. I used to live in Dayton, Ohio. I know him and his brothers and his parents very well. I'm very proud of him. And he paid his own tickets all the way here from Dayton and his stay here, so we really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to thank, of course, the Libyan American organization and Nadia and the dean specifically for helping me out with the whole speech and talking and everything. Thank you guys so much.
Okay. Yes. So don't forget to check out our bazaar with lots of cool things, including Samah's dress line, which is fabulous. And we'll see you at 7:30, inshallah. Okay, and don't forget to vote if you haven't voted. 7:30. Come earlier. Come 6. Just wait. 7:15. 7.
Please, one last announcement for the youth. We need some youth volunteers. If you can, please come to the registration table around 7 o'clock. We need you to help us with the registration process and getting people into the dinner banquet, inshallah. So please, if you can, after you dress, put your best uniform on and come back around 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Me?